speaking of Philly food, isn't there like a famous I don't know if it's a market or a restaurant that serves a roasted pork and broccoli rabe sandwich in Philly that's
Mhm.
supposed to be super amazing?
Where's that?
And I don't know. Like I want to say I thought somewhere in Philly there's somewhere that has like this really famous roasted pork and broccoli rabe sandwich. I think I was talking to your wife about it.
I'm trying to remember. I mean, there's a couple places that's what they're known for. Broccoli rabe is also a big thing here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what place it could be
I'll
though.
have to go. Is this D Nick's roasted pork, John? I
Oh,
don't
Denix,
know.
yeah.
The
That's
Nick's.
also one of the famous ones.
Yeah, this is the one because I saw it. I saw it featured on the Travel Channel as the best sandwich in America. It's in some kind of like market, like a transit market.
Oh, the Reading Terminal Market.
That looks super awesome.
Yeah, never go to the Reading Terminal Market on an empty stomach.
Ah, dude, I'm not much of a traveler, but I need to get out and explore. And I didn't realize this was maybe such an East Coast thing. We've talked about this on previous episodes, but I go down these rabbit holes of YouTube channels, and I ended up finding the most bizarre YouTube channels out there. My current thing I'm on to. Remember last time I talked about? Oh yeah, I'm into this guy that like unplugs drains, and then I'm into this
Yeah.
other guy. So this guy I stumbled across now. His YouTube name is Action Kid, and
Okay.
he walks around all the different boroughs in New York, and he just does like a walking tour, like an
Hmm.
hour and a half walking tours of just different neighborhoods in New York. And as he's doing it, I'm seeing this trend that in all like the major kind of transit hubs is like a line where you switch between metros or whatever, that there's this whole concept of these markets at the transit station. So
Hmm.
like you have restaurants and markets, and it's like you step off and there's like all these food options. I'm like, this looks absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Reading Terminal Market here.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to give that a try. To try the best sandwich in America as dubbed by the Travel Channel. It did look
Yep.
amazing when I saw it.
It's the bread out here. I've been trying
Is
to
it?
find a way to get like fresh bread from here shipped out to you so you can give it a try.
Is it the water? Like, what is it? What
It's the
what makes
water.
it? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's the water.
uh, yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to trying for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, get you like some Amorosa rolls sent out. It's got to be a matter of like getting them out within a couple of days, so they're
Yeah, that's the
fresh.
problem. That's the problem with shipping food, right? It's like it's not the
Yeah.
same. Not quite the same. It's just picking it up at the market.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
All right. So speaking of food, the holidays are here. So with that, the end of the year is quickly approaching. And at this point, like, many, start taking off at this point. We have our corporate shutdown the last week and a half, 2 weeks of the year. That's quickly coming up, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. And with that, it's for us, we've been talking about it the last couple of days. So I thought I'd continue our conversation here. With the holidays coming, with taking time off, we've been talking about, really, actually like being intentional and about wrapping up the year, not just working up until the last day, shutting down and picking back up in the beginning of the year beginning of next year when we get back, actually taking the time to close out the year. So I wanted to spend some time talking about like, what does that look like? What does it mean to actually like wrap up the year in a productive, intentional fashion?
yeah, it's a good conversation, and I'm glad it's a conversation that we're having because honestly, the first few years of running 33 sticks, I had no idea what that was, what that would have even been like. It seemed like every year around this time, we would be working with a company or a new client, and they would say it's really important that we get analytics up and running before too long into January. We're all off. Wondering if you can work some magic. And I swear it was like 3 end of Decembers in a row where I ended up working like 12-hour days the entire break, the entire 2 weeks to stand up an analytics implementation for one company or another. I'm glad the last few years have been the opposite of that and had some downtime. So I think a lot about what we've been talking about from a business perspective really can be applied at the personal level. And what we've been doing is focusing really heavily on wrapping up projects that are near the wrap up phase, whether it's sales efforts or projects or things we're working on, to kind of get those things across the finish line, not force it to completion, but get it done. Because I think one of the things that with any extended break that takes away from it is constantly your mind pulling back to projects that are in flow, right? And it's like, oh, I need to think about this, or okay, I'm just going to go sit down at the computer for 30 minutes and work on this just so I can maybe get it done. And you don't end up utilizing that time to shut your brain off like you should. So we've talked about that a lot internally. Hey, there's these 4 or 5 things we really want to wrap up and get done. Let's make sure we get it done. It's not just the getting it done, it's the getting it out of our mind space so we can truly walk away for a little while, which I think is critically important. And then 2 other things that I've really been thinking about and trying to do the last couple of years. Everyone does it. It's a great opportunity to reflect back. What was 2020 like? What did we do? What did we accomplish? I think it's an important time to do that. It's not just a cliche thing to do to kind of look back over the year from a business perspective and a personal perspective to say what have we accomplished? What have we done? What should we be proud of? What did we learn? It's a great opportunity to do that. I've seen a lot of messages on social media saying, yeah, screw all this. Let's just skip to 2021. Man, there's just so many good things that happened this year. And as challenging and as hard as it's been, there have been tremendous learning opportunities and lessons this year that if we don't take the time to appreciate it, I think they pass us by. And that would be unfortunate to go through all this struggle and pain and challenges and not be able to reap some of the rewards and benefits that came out of it. So definitely kind of taking time to do that. And then one of the things you and I have talked about is let's spend the last couple of weeks before we walk away kind of setting the table for next year. So it's not one of these things where we roll back into the office half hungover, the first week of January and saying, all right, what should we do? We already know what we're going to do. And again, I think all of these things are critical to really being able to step away, because if we don't wrap things up, we're going to be thinking about it. If we don't take the time to kind of think through what have we accomplished, we're going to be thinking about it. And if we don't take the time to actively say, well, what do we want to jump into the first week of January when we get back, we're going to actively be thinking about it. So not only is it good to kind of add this structure, I think it's really important just to kind of get it out there so we can say, you know what, let's truly switch off for a little while and allow ourselves to recharge.
Yeah. And I mean, you hit a lot there. And what I've really learned the last few years, because I would say up until a few years ago, I would just work, tactical stuff, deploying things, tag configurations, all of those various things up until the very end, call it a day, and then pick back up in January. And it was maybe about 3-4 years ago, I kind of realized, especially after I joined here, and we have, this, the shutdown period where, one, you're absolutely right, and I don't want to harp on it too much because you covered it really well. Is if I didn't have like a proper wrap up, my mind would constantly go back, and that actually happens over the weekend sometimes, just on a much smaller scale.
Sometimes it just happens on a regular weeknight.
Yeah, like
because it just everything bleeds together.
Yeah, like I've thought about it on Friday night, like the times where I haven't taken that time on a Friday afternoon just to make sure, hey, let me just get these last couple emails out, or at least let me get these notes written down. It just dwells on me. Like, if I'm trying to wrap up because, say, we're going somewhere on a Friday night or we've got something going on, okay, Saturday morning, I'll sit down and write that email. Well, I don't get to it Saturday, and it hangs over my head all day Saturday into Sunday night. So all I've done is thought about like that one thing I wanted to send out. And it's even worse with the holidays coming around is wanting to be able to take the time. And this year it's definitely gonna be different, spending time with family and whatnot. But that being said, wanting to be present in the moment yeah, keep constantly pulling you back and out of that state of just enjoying the time of the year for what it is. And then the other thing too is yeah, that momentum. So in other cases where, say, to your point of you're not able to force a project to completion, but at least getting it to a somewhat complete state or some kind of logical stopping point, writing down everything, making notes for about it so that when you come back in, you have everything written down. You're not spending that time trying to figure out where was I at? What was I doing? What do I need to do to pick this back up? Everything is written down. It's like, a gift to your future self.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've tried out different models, and that is the one that seems to work. And I want to go back to a point that you brought up because while we are talking about these big kind of end of year events and thinking back over a whole year, really this framework. My dog wants to come in the office. It's probably because we're I think her toys back there on the carpet. um, this framework really applies to the day to day, and you bring up an excellent point talking about like happening on the weekend. It happens to me a lot just on an average work day, and taking this deliberate approach to designing how we work and giving it structure is so important. And I will admit, as much as I know it works, I'm not very good about being consistent about it. So don't think I have like any of this figured out. I know it works. Forcing myself into the habit, it's a whole other story. But thinking about, and dude, especially with everyone working from home and remotely and things just bleed together, I've tried really hard to kind of take this end of year framework and compress it down to every day. So at the beginning of the day, kind of think through, all right, what did I get done yesterday? What did I feel good about? What's there? What's still kind of lingering out there? What do I want to accomplish today? And then at the end of the day, kind of going through that same exercise. Okay, what did I get done? What did I not get done? Let me write down those things. Let me start to prepare my list for tomorrow of the things I want to get into. I know when I do that, it's such a healthy flow to be in, and I'm able to just let things go and have a better night's sleep and come into the next day refreshed and ready to go. The frustrating thing is, as much as I know that works, it's really hard to do every day. But again, I think it's something that if you do on a daily, a quarterly, a yearly basis to differing depths and degrees, it's such a healthy, productive, valuable activity to do. So let's start at the end of the year mark. We can at least commit to hopefully doing it once, right? Like let's do it at the end of the year. Let's see if we can get into the habit of doing it every quarter. And man, if you could kind of take that framework and do it every day, it's such a much nicer way to work.
Yeah. And I get really good at doing that. And then just like something will come
Yeah,
up and
something
it
always happens and it
pulls
throws
me
you
out of the
off.
habit. Yeah.
And that's the biggest challenge is like, and it's with anything, like Hila and I started riding the Peloton together, taking classes together a couple days a week, and we were doing really, really good. And then something would come up. Like I think I like hurt my ankle or something. And so I took a day or two off. And now it's like every time it comes up, I'm like, yeah, I kind of have an excuse. I don't really want to do it. I'm kind of tired, and it sucks because when you are consistent in it, it feels so good. But when you have something come up that breaks you out of that routine, man, it's so hard to get going again.
Yeah.
You know? So another thing that I wanted to call out that I've been trying to get in the habit of doing every year, and I would strongly suggest others do as well, is um, we should be doing it all year long, but if nothing else, it's a great time to think about others during kind of this season. And one of the things that I've tried to do, mainly because I haven't been home around Thanksgiving the last 4 years or so, I've been down in San Diego for Thanksgiving. So kind of away from all the distractions of everything, just kind of hanging out, lazy. I think we've recorded some podcasts while I was down there on the rooftop with the noisy fan.
Yep.
But it was such a great time to like just have very little distractions, and I would spend hours just writing personal notes to people on the telling them why I was grateful for knowing them or their friendship. I think last year I did something similar, and I also bought some memberships to the Christian Science Monitor as little thank you gifts. I think the year before I sent out a bunch of books. I think I sent out the book from the Charity Water, Thirst. So and I did it again this year where I spent, oh, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 hours sending out personalized tweets to I don't know how many hundreds of people. But it's such a great opportunity just to slow down and just be grateful for the people we have around us and show a little bit of gratitude. And I think obviously that can continue into the holiday season in December. Just a great opportunity to slow down a little bit, show your appreciation for your family, for your coworkers, for, your neighbors, the people around you. We get so busy and everything is so hectic. We often forget just to slow down and even just a simple, hey, thinking about you, hey, thanks for doing this goes an incredibly long way. So, I think a good item to add into our end of year framework.
Yeah, I really like that. And then that kind of goes back to what we kind of started talking about, just because I'm spent some time looking into it this morning. One of the things, I've always known it, like, each region has its own unique things, but it's definitely just, smack you in the face apparent to me now. One, working with a team like this that's completely distributed throughout the country, but then working with a client in London, just how like those little differences make. So I've been trying to find some local things here that will ship internationally, so I can share some of that stuff with them, because that's become a big thing that I've tried to do. It's a really fun thing. Like the stuff that I know I kind of take for granted here, that it may be in other regions in some form or another, but still there's a level of uniqueness to it, and trying to share that with
Yeah,
others.
I love that, and it's a great way to connect and kind of share something unique and special, and it's also a great way just to kind of grow relationships and learn. Again, like we've kind of taken that out of the equation, kind of putting thought into things, and I think a big part of it is we all get so busy, and it's like, okay, we need to send a gift, we need to send a thank you, so let's automate it, let's just get it out there. But man, it ruins the spirit of why we're doing it, and just taking a little time to be, and the word this year, and maybe it was the word last year, being deliberate about it. And it doesn't have to be a big expenditure, a big investment of time, but just taking a little bit of time to think personally about the person you're connecting with, and sending a little personal note, a little
Mm-hmm.
gift that's from my area, something unique, has such a massive impact, and an awesome thing to do, especially if you have some downtime at the end of the year, right? A great way to kind of celebrate the moment and celebrate the year.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff I've been putting on my list for next week. So we're recording this like 2 weeks early, so we're in the first week of December now, and my goal for this week is to put a nice bow on a lot of the tactical work I have due before the end of the year. Stuff I need to get out for clients, stuff I need to get out just for us as an organization, so that next week I can sit down and really just get into a mindset of thinking. One, where do we want to recommend clients go when we come into the beginning of next year? Because we have multiple clients right now that are just focused on peak season traffic,
Yeah.
so they don't have time to think about um, trying some kind of new feature or anything like that. They don't have time to worry about that right now. So really putting some thought around that, so that when we do get back that first week of the January, we can really put some focus on clients, and it's that proactive touch. You were talking about the personal touch. It's also the
Mm-hmm.
proactive touch of coming in January and saying, like, hey, here's some things we recommend that we put some focus toward for the coming year.
Yeah, and from a business perspective, and anybody that's trying to create anything, it's so critically important to, again, be deliberate about how we use that time. And if nothing more, when you start to create things, especially things that are incredibly complicated that take a long time to build, you realize that 12 months is nothing. It is so short. It goes
Mm-hmm.
by so quickly. And one of the biggest kind of detractors from that is end of year, because what ends up happening is, to your point, there is a crazy push towards the end of the year, and then everyone shuts off for a couple weeks in December, whether they're at work or not. Like nothing's happening, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it winds down, and then rolling back into the office, it takes another 2 to 3 weeks to ramp back up. We've lost a month and a half out of that 12 months is now gone. So we now have 11 months. So that's why I think being so deliberate about how we use that time is so critically important. It's not to say we don't want to take the time off. It's we want to properly take the time to plan so that when we do shut down the right way, and we don't leave things lingering. When we take time off, we're actually taking time off. And when we get back into the office, we're rested, recharged, and ready to go, and we don't need 2 to 3 weeks to ramp up. To me, especially as a business owner, it is so ideal to have that in place.
Yeah. I just thought of this as you were talking. I'm reminded of a scene from the Will Ferrell movie Elf. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies, and I watched that and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation on repeat this time of year. But it's early on in the movie. It's I think it's one of the flashback scenes where it's like the head elf is talking, kind of giving like the post-Christmas wrap up, and then he's like, "Okay, on to planning for next Christmas." Immediately, wrapping up and then immediately planning for, the day that's going to be 365 days, later. So yeah, you're right. Like, especially this year flew by, at times it felt like a drug. And then other times it felt like it flew by. Like there's part of me that's like, I can't believe we're into December already.
I know, it's crazy because I was thinking about it the other day with my kids, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's been the longest year ever." I'm like, I don't know. Like it went by so quickly, and yeah, it's been hard, and like complete lifestyle changes and the way we do business changes. But man, it's from my perspective, it's just flown by. And yeah, I guess that's kind of what it is, especially when you start to think about, again, like wanting to create a lot of things, you realize how limited your time is. And I think it just makes that time so much more precious, and unfortunately seem to go by so incredibly quickly. Sorry, I'm moving all over the place here. There's too much light. I should have shut my blinds. Today's a bad video day because I don't care about my hair. I have a headache. So hopefully the audio is good, but if you're watching this on the YouTube, I apologize for less than stellar video content this time. I don't even have my cool mood lighting. It is authentic.
It's authentic though.
Yeah. And I'm starving. I had a fried egg on toast for breakfast, and I had a hot dog for lunch. To call it a hot dog is not fair. I think I'm realizing how incredibly blessed I am to have this grocery store, which is a Utah chain called Harmon's, like 5 minutes down the street from me. It is so amazing. So I have Hila. Every time she comes here, we go and we pick out food, and she's like, "I'm so jealous that this is like right down the street from me." I'm like, "You live in LA. Like, what are you talking about? You should have access to this." Like, not in my neighborhood. Like, I have to. So anyway, they make these in-store frankfurters. And it's like natural casing, and it's like the real deal where they're like hanging and they're all connected together. And I bought a pack of those and cooked those up the other day, and the crispiness when it snaps when you bite through the casing of that dog. So I was craving one, so I had one for lunch, and now it's 2:00 and I'm starving again. I have like a 5-pound box of
goldfish. Nice.
The flavor blasted is the way to go.
Nice.
Sorry, completely sidetracked there.
It wouldn't be a good episode if we didn't get sidetracked.
It wouldn't be the holiday season if we weren't getting sidetracked and thinking about delicious foods and
I know
what we're going to do.
Yeah,
we talked about. Oh, go for it. Go for it.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No,
I was just gonna say, like, I put on my suit this past weekend, and it was not good. So I told Suzanne, I'm like, I need to get my shit together. Like, it's this year. You want to talk about lifestyle changes, like. Just with certain things, like my waistline has not fared well. So I'm like, I want to start working on it now, so I don't go completely off the rails with the holidays like I normally do, and then really just try to keep me kind of within some kind of guardrails, and then really hit it hard come January.
We should do a competition as a team. Like
We
people that
should.
want to opt into it, we should do something to keep ourselves motivated. That'd be fun. We should think about that. Um, so yeah, I can't remember. No, I think I remember what I was going to ask. Also, I'm staring at my. Did we give these out one year as like employee gifts? Or
They were
no, this
supposed
was
to be the
Summit.
client gift.
The
This was
client
supposed to be
gifts
this
this
year's summit
year.
gift.
I love this thing. It's my Pomodoro timer.
Nice.
Um, I think we may have talked about this last year, but what speaking of end of year and kind of framing it out, what kind of food traditions do you have in the O'Driscoll household?
Lots. Typically
Yeah.
lots of food between that and my wife's family. So um on the 23rd, my mother-in-law typically has the seven fishes, or at least her version of the
Mm-hmm.
seven fishes. Crabs, clams, squid, shrimp.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean she's got it all.
that sounds
Now,
awesome.
yeah, and I mean typically there's a bunch of people that come, including my parents. Um, but this year we were actually talking about the other day. She was recommending her mom, like, Mom, seriously, like, just scale it back this year because it's pretty much going to be us and her parents. So it's like, Mom, keep it really simple this year. Like, don't go crazy because there's leftovers for days with it. You know, a lot of it gets frozen, and then we'll pull, something out of the freezer, like the crabs and spaghetti or something like that. Like at least the gravy. In this case, gravy is the right word to use. The crab gravy or the squid gravy, pull that out and then go get some spaghetti to go with it. But so there's that. Um, Christmas Eve with my siblings, typically just a large spread of all different kinds of hors d'oeuvres. And then there's this thing that comes from my mom's side of the family. So this is like the German branch of my family tree. It's this family recipe. It's passed down by each mother to her daughters and daughters-in-law. It's called loaf cake. It's not a cake, but it's not a bread. It's something in between, and it's made 3 times a year: Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas. So Suzanne made it 2 weeks ago, and then she'll make that again. And like she got the recipe from my mom when we got married, and it's honestly, like, with my mom's generation especially, it's become the tradition to kind of, like, as part of like a shower gift or first holiday gift, to gift all the stuff, including a handwritten recipe card.
That's awesome.
So there's that, and I'm trying to think, like, what else. Like Christmas Day, because Christmas Eve is typically the night where we've got the big spread. Christmas Day is usually just simple food, and then really, I mean, that's the food situation. I'm trying to think, like, again, like this year, it's actually, we've been talking about, like, what are we going to do over Christmas week with stuff being closed, with like the big family get-togethers not happening, like typically New Year's Day. So another Philadelphia thing is the Mummers Day Parade,
Mm.
and that's New Year's Day. And typically we go down to my wife's cousin's place in South Philly, and again, another just big spread, lots of people, lots of food, lots of drinks. That's not happening. So don't know. So some of this
Yeah.
stuff is up in the air this year.
Yeah. No, understood. And before I get to my, I think, three food traditions, did we engage in an online debate about when I called spaghetti and marinara macaroni and gravy?
Yeah.
I don't know. So most of the East Coast Italians I know refer to any kind of pasta as macaroni.
Yes. As does
Um,
my wife.
and a lot of them, probably half of them, refer to pasta sauce as gravy.
Mm-hmm.
So it caused quite the stir when I called it that on Twitter. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's spaghetti and marinara sauce. I'm like, yeah, it's macaroni and gravy. I don't know.
Yeah, it's macaroni.
That's
At least
macaroni.
that's what my wife has, calls it, and kind of beaten into my head. Now, I mean,
Yeah.
there is definitely a debate on sauce versus gravy. And the more I read, because at one point I was reading and people were saying it's like If it comes from like if meat drippings are involved, so if like you're making like a meat sauce, then it is gravy.
Then it's gravy.
Especially like like I was talking about my mother-in-law's Seven Fishes, where she makes like the sauce with pieces of crab and some sauce with pieces of squid, like that's gravy. But then I heard like that's not inaccurate. I don't think anybody effing knows like
Yeah.
where it is. But the one thing that I do know is the term gravy originated like on the East Coast. So New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, like the Italians that settled there. Because from one thing I did read is in Italy itself, and in Italy they call it sauce. It's
Yeah.
it's something that I think happened
Macaroni
when the
and
Italians,
sauce.
yeah,
Dude, when the
when
Italians came to America, they slaughtered all the terms,
yeah,
right? Because that's where we got fun things like and
gabagool,
I the gabagool, and sometimes I go down to my deli and I'll ask for it to see if and like half the times, depending on who's working there, they know exactly what I'm saying, and half the other times, like, what are you talking about?
mm-hmm.
Like, you mean the capicola? I'm like, yeah, the
Yeah,
gabagool.
the prosciutto,
The prosciutto, like, yeah, the Italian Americans, like, they just shortened every Italian word into like this grumbled mess of weirdness
yeah,
that is still awesome. So
yep,
yeah. um yeah, man, we should have a whole episode and get some of our international friends in on food topics, and that would be such a fun episode. Because I was thinking about it, I had a friend from Uganda stay with me for a couple months, and everything she cooked that was saucy she called gravy. So
mm-hmm.
if it was like some kind of Indian dish like a curry, it was gravy over rice. If like she was cooking fish and there was some kind of like a butter sauce or something that goes over, she's like, yeah, you put that gravy over the fish. Like, every sauce was gravy. So
Mm-hmm.
we should totally do an episode, get some of our
Yeah.
friends from the different countries that we're connected to, and we should talk about food terms. That would be super fun. Because I participated. There's a analytics chat that a guy in I think Germany or somewhere in Europe that he puts on, that I was a guest on, with a couple of the people we know, and we talked food, we talked grilling. It was super super fun. So anyway, we can get Till from Germany, we can get Yoshua from Israel. I think we can get a good group. That would be super fun.
Yeah, let's put that together. I think that would be something fun to record next week. Is again, people are starting to get into that wrap up phase.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that on the list to put together.
Let's do that. So my three traditions, and I think I've talked about one of them in the past. My Italian side of the family, and they don't do it anymore, is like that generation has kind of died off. Would traditionally do the bagna cauda, which is it's basically, right, butter and olive oil, garlic and anchovies in a pot, and you kind of dip vegetables and things in it, and you let it soak down onto some crusty bread. I find it delicious. I think a lot of it is about the just camaraderie and family time.
Mm-hmm.
My family doesn't love it so much, but I try to do it every year because I like the memories.
It sounds wonderful.
It's so amazingly delicious. But just, having it around the table with, like, things you can dip in it, and breads, and it is so delicious, and it's a fun little thing to just have laying around, right? Because it's one of those things you can put a little warmer underneath it and have it going all day, and just wander around, dip in there, and get some anchovy and garlic, buttery goodness. So yeah, you usually like doing that around Christmas Eve. And then for my birthday, which is on the 31st, my son and I had developed a tradition of like getting a ton of shellfish. So like mussels and clams, and we do like a huge kind of bake and just kind of eat on that all New Year's Eve, and kind of do that. So that's been super fun. And then the last 10 years or so, Ben Gaines and I, right before Christmas, go up to a fish market in Salt Lake and get sashimi grade fish to do sushi over the Christmas break. And I think we've gone 10 or 11 years in a row. And I was just over at his house the other day dropping something off. He's like, we're not going to let the tradition break, right? I'm like, no way. He's like, we'll fully mask up and everything, but we're making this happen. I'm like, oh yeah, we got to make
Nice.
this happen. So
Nice.
yeah.
What about your traditional baking? The 22nd or 23rd you do with Gila virtually.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. So that's coming up. Yeah, so we've been doing that for probably close to 10 years as well. Every we typically do it sometime between New Year's Eve and Christmas. We do a live kind of baking together orange clementine syrup cake. I think it's a traditional Israeli cake. And we do it every year, and it's kind of turned into a little bit of a competition to see who like makes the best cake. But yeah, we get on FaceTime and cook for a whole day together putting this cake together, and then by that night we have the finished version and throw up pictures on social media saying who had the best cake.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it looks delicious
yeah,
every year.
yeah, it's fun. It's a good tradition to have, and it kind of reminds me of my grandparents a lot too, because you know those little chocolate sticks with orange like gel on the inside.
Hmm.
They would have boxes of those around their house around Christmas time, and that's kind of when you bite into this cake because it's got this chocolate ganache kind of covering to it. It kind of reminds me of that chocolate orange stick, and kind of brings back good memories of being young at my grandparents' house with the boxes of those things.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. The Italians, I don't know if it's an Italian thing, but it seems like chocolate with fruit tended to be like the go-to desserty thing.
Hmm.
So it was not necessarily the traditional thing, but it has good memories for me.
Yeah, and like a tradition I've started getting used to, not for Thanksgiving, is I never did it. At least my family never did it. But you want to talk about like Italian food traditions, some kind of pasta dish with Thanksgiving dinner, and my
Mm,
mother-in-law makes a lasagna. So in
mm.
addition to the turkey, the stuffing, the mashed potatoes, the
All the other
this, the
heavy
that,
food.
yeah, yeah, we throw a lasagna in there too.
That's awesome.
But I'll tell
That
you
is
this though,
awesome.
one of my favorite things the day after Thanksgiving, 2 days after Thanksgiving, is making a sandwich with the leftovers. You
Hmm.
Getting a nice roll, turkey, stuffing, and cranberry sauce with a little dab of mayo in there. Phenomenal sandwich.
Hard to go wrong there. Hard to go wrong. I think we talked about on a previous podcast. One of my favorite Thanksgivings was my Indian Thanksgiving in Kansas City.
Oh, I don't remember this.
I didn't mention it. So we were working with Hallmark, and we were there near Thanksgiving working on a big project that was like months in the making, and it was literally like 1 or 2 days before Thanksgiving, and their entire development team was a contractor group that was from India, and they were living temporarily in Kansas City to help build out the Hallmark.com site, and they put together this amazing display of Indian food. And Hallmark was downsizing a little bit at the time, and in one of their buildings, the top floor was completely empty, and it kind of turned into a little bit of a graveyard where like all the old odds and ends that nobody wanted were kind of stored up there. It was kind of
Hmm.
dark, the lighting wasn't great, but they found a little spot up there, set up a bunch of tables, and put out this spread of the most amazing Indian food ever. And it was my Indian Thanksgiving in Kansas
Okay,
City.
that sounds awesome.
Yeah, so phenomenal. So amazing. I will never forget that.
Hmm. That
Yeah.
sounds awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, and look, this is a good time of year to have those kind of reflections and
Hmm.
kind of to circle back to where we came from starting out the episode. Um, Things move incredibly fast, and life is hectic, and we just it's so good to just take some and just doing this like it's been so kind of cathartic to sit down and have this conversation with you and think back on some of these memories and traditions and realize, man, there's lots of good stuff that's happening, and it's important for us to recognize
Yeah,
that.
and
So
it's just remembering too. Like this time of year always reminds me. It's um, life is more than work. I have admitted more times than I need to say, like I'm a workaholic. I
yeah.
get lost in work. I get stressed out about work. Like I'll be laying in bed and I forgot to send that one thing. And there have been times I've gotten out of bed to go do something because like, if I don't get this sent out, someone's going to be like asking for it next day or whatever. But like, this is also the time of year, like to truly remember, like life is more than just work. And one of the things I told Suzanne, I'm excited for. So JP is a year and a half now. Like, and so like, I'm looking forward to Christmas this
He
year.
looks like
Really
he's about
looking
3 though.
Yeah.
He's a big boy.
Well, honestly, my nephew, my sister's son, who is 9 months old, is bigger. He's a
Really?
big boy. Yeah. JP is he's tall, he's long, but he's thin.
Nah.
But like he's getting to that age where like I'm excited for this year. Like I told her, I said, I am going to make it a point, like, take advantage of the fact that we're not running around. I see it as a blessing in disguise that we've typically just run around that entire week.
Yeah.
Just getting on the floor with him and playing with him and, teaching him how to play with his toys, not just saying, here's toys, figure it out. Like actually, like, like it's one of those things. And, again, talk about being intentional with work, like being intentional with him and making sure that, we're not running around and that, like at this age, teaching him how to play, how to have fun, and not just assuming he's going to pick it up.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And we've talked about this on other episodes, the importance of being able to enjoy the freedom and autonomy that we have. Which reminds me of an episode that we should put up, or that we should do next year. I don't know if you saw my post on LinkedIn about the fact that I think a lot of this is going to go away. In fact, we had a guy on our podcast that was building some surveillance type solutions for remote workers, so management can keep. Remember that episode where?
Yep.
I can't remember the name of the app that they were building, but we all in the knowledge space right now are getting a taste of this autonomy and freedom, and we really need to enjoy it. For lots of folks, it's more important than ever to really enjoy this autonomy we have right now, because I think going into next year, it's going to go away for a lot of them, even if they continue to work from home, because we're going to see the rollout of a lot of these kind of surveillance softwares and making sure butts are in seats and you're working 8 to 5, and you're going to lose a lot of that autonomy, unfortunately. So definitely, it's so critically important to take advantage of that right now and take advantage of those opportunities with your kids, with your family, with the time. We've talked about Evan talking about the importance of just going for a walk and evaluating and thinking. Go for a walk before the end of the year and think about all the amazing things you were able to accomplish this year. You have the autonomy to do that on your terms right now. Do it while you have that chance.
Yeah. So this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was good. Now
I
I'm
always love
hungry
our
even
conversations
more
about food.
I know. We should. I hope you took a note to do our international food panel. That will be amazing.
I did. I made a couple notes here. I got to get on planning that. Try to get some of our international friends on here.
That'd be fun. Yeah, our food conversations are always good.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to the break. I think my takeaway from today is go into it deliberately, plan, empty your mind, take the time off. Again, we've got some autonomy and some freedom right now we may not have next year. Let's enjoy the time and use it wisely.
Agreed. So we'll go ahead and wrap up there and talk to everybody later.
See ya.
See ya.